Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Nico Farah, your host. And today we're talking about how we can solve one of the biggest challenges of XR. I had the pleasure and honor to be on the same panel with Louis, our today's guest, at Augmented World Expo. And I was fascinated by what he shared, and I asked him to join me on an episode to talk about it. He has an amazing background and he's calling here from Japan. So I'm so grateful that even though it's kind of late, he has joined us. I appreciate you, Louis, and I can't wait to hear more about your story. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Nico. Great to meet everyone virtually. Luis, founder and CEO of Mawari, and yeah, really excited for this chat.
Awesome, awesome. And to our amazing audience and community, feel free to put in the chat where you're calling from. I know we have a very diverse audience. But yeah, Louis, please tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into XR, how you got into Japan technology scene, and kind of how you started Mawari.
Sure. Okay. I'll try to make it brief because it's a long story. I arrived in Japan maybe 12 years ago, and I started Mawari in 2017. So yeah, we'll try to compress it in a few minutes. So about myself, I'm originally from Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico City. I have lived in several parts of the world, including the U.S., Germany, and finally I landed in Japan. Why Japan? It was literally just an adventure. I was expecting to stay very little time, but I was just so amazed by the culture and everything that Tokyo has to offer. So I decided to move here. And yeah, what initially seemed like a maybe a 1 to 2 years adventure, it became now my life. 12 years starting my company and so on and so forth. Then, with regards, how do I get into XR? Uh, well, I was fortunate enough to be really from the early days of the internet, having access, I mean, starting from IRC, ICQ, and all this. So I've been always kind of like an online person, and I have seen the evolution of technology. My first really contact with XR, it was actually the one of the failure devices from Nintendo, the Virtual Boy, that not many people recall, and that really gave me a lot of curiosity. But then after that, uh, I slowly started getting also a little bit into Japanese culture. Like, anime and manga have a really futuristic cyberpunk topics and ideology. And that was really, really, really appealing to me. And this is the reason when I actually came first to Japan, I really fell in love with it. Then now specifically into Mawari and even before Mawari XR, um, I was in Japan thinking what to do with my life and in general, kind of one of those moments, and I was like, maybe okay, so it's too early, but I really like XR. I started another company, and unfortunately, that didn't go through. But it was more about how to communicate through avatars per se. Then after that, I co-founded a digital arts festival called Mutech. Mutech is originally from Montreal, and we brought this festival to Japan. And here, the main feature of Mutech, I would say, is that is about very experimental artists trying to experiment with emerging technologies. In 2015, the case was with, yeah, that VR was the next method of experimentation. But that's when we realized that, okay, it's not as simple as just, jumping from one software to another. Building for VR at the time, it was not trivial. You needed to know a lot of other new things as an audiovisual artist. So we saw an opportunity. Okay, there's a need here, and that's how we started the company Mawari, with the mission of democratizing the creation and access to immersive content worldwide. That officially the company was founded in 2017, and since then, yeah, I've been working on this company since then, trying to always push the envelope on what XR, and really trying to bring XR from what everybody thinks is just a concept or some technology that is not ready into the mainstream.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, in terms of kind of the scene, or acceptance and adoption of these technologies like XR and even Web3 that we talked about on the panel at AWE, can you tell us kind of like what have you observed in terms of the differences between Japan, Asia in general, and the West?
Sure. Okay. So to give you a quick, just breakdown. So in Japan, VR is a very old concept, actually, even
Mm.
before the first wave with Oculus and so on. And and as I mentioned, anime and manga and Japanese culture are very open to virtual worlds, or your other self, your alter ego, this kind
Right.
of ideology. So XR is not as a weird thing, like, in the Western world, maybe, yeah, in 2015 and 2016, people would think, "What's this? You look dorky with a big headset, and why should I do this?" But in Japan, what and especially in Asia, we've seen people willing to try. That's one thing. The second difference is, uh, think about, like, there's an effect called Galapagos. That could be also, for example, an example in the smartphones. Japan had like the flip-flop phones that had internet, TV, and a lot of other things way before the iPhone. Steve Jobs came to Japan, had some inspiration and simplified the UI, and then boom, the iPhone is a big hit, and then the story is the rest. So that's one of the biggest differences, I would say, that in terms of UX and how complex an interface could be. Um, Japanese people are very methodical, follow instructions step by step.
Mm.
So for an early stage technology like XR, this is very important, because when you are not there yet for mainstream adoption, yeah, if you give an XR headset to a regular person that has never tried it before, maybe they just get frustrated because they don't know how to use it, and it's not in immediate satisfaction. So I think that's one of the biggest difference, and why it made sense, actually, that we started a company in Japan.
That's awesome. And yeah, so that's really great. So in terms of being open about this new technology, especially when and being an early adopter, especially when it's really hard. Even we are now in 2024 at AWE, and people still think it's a long way to go. So it's amazing. So you really took that opportunity to the best. And so let's talk about Mawari. Tell us what this name even means, and then kind of like a little bit more of what you guys did to really democratize and accomplish that vision that you had to democratize access.
Sure. Okay, so Mawari means many things in Japanese. Actually, the original inspiration was the kanji that is a square and inside another little square, which means also in Chinese and is kind of like rotation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the point. We started with, okay, so our current internet back in 2015 is framed. It's inside a device that is a frame per se, and we see it through kind of through a window, right? So
Yes.
the next generation of content is that frame becomes your eyes, right? So
Yeah.
it's all about look around. And Mawari, in that sense, for example, in Japanese, kono mawari ni means like around this surrounding or your surroundings is how you use the word Mawari. So it's really that meaning that everything that surrounds us is the next generation of content.
Amazing. Such a good name selection. Before we get into Mawari's business and technology, I want to thank our audience, Gabriel, Warren, Rhoda, and Luisa, and everyone else who are listening or now live or later. We appreciate you. Feel free to ask any questions, share your comments and thoughts about the technology that we're speaking to, or like your experiences about Japan, and like how you have seen they're adopting these technologies. All right, so let's get into Mawari's technology. Do you want to share your screen, or do you want to just speak about it right now? Let me know when
Sh-
you're
Sure. I mean, we can go with sharing screen.
awesome.
Okay, so first I will start with what's the problem, and then how we went about the problem, and then later we can go into a little bit of the examples. So in a nutshell, okay, so I think about like how content is delivered today. Just even this show is through a video and it's a 2D stream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it took more than 20 years to build infrastructure that powers this the immediate replication of content per se worldwide. So the content that we have today is instant, is infinite, is personalized, and it has high quality. So for example, you press play in Netflix, and within less than a second, you have a 4K movie either in your TV or your smartphone or any other device where you want to log in. So when we think about what's the future, we all relate to movies like Minority Report for older generations, for or Blade Runner for even older generations, and for
Mm-hmm.
newer generations is Player One.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so we see this as an omnipresent technology that is part of our daily lives, right? Just as the internet today is like this here. But if we ask the question, so how consumer grade XR content delivery will happen in the 2030s? Then we need to have it instant, almost infinite, personalized and high quality. End users actually won't settle for less because we're used to that already. And the new generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, which are actually the target users of this technology, they don't know what, for example, I remember in my early days of the internet, when you would download a picture, it will just do like tuk 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 until you would finally download the full picture. They don't even know or understand what it is. So there's no room to to really do less. That's one point. The second point, and my analysis is that XR in terms of infrastructure and content delivery is the equivalent of how the internet was in the early 90s. So we are at that level of readiness per se. And yes, we have a lot of good XR content that is locally deployed on XR headsets. But when we think about, okay, so now we have, let's say, a footprint of 100 million users. So how do we really scale it? And the current architecture that we have today is not the answer. And this is why we call it like why XR streaming matters, because just as we went on music from the evolution from the physical audio format to MP3 to streaming, we need to have a similar evolution here in XR. So let's, and this is what basically we call the elephant in the room as the problem and solution. As you know, all the startups is that consumer grade XR content cannot be delivered to mobile XR devices at scale. And this is because of two specific issues. One is technical bottlenecks, and the second one is infrastructure limitations. When we talk about XR technical bottlenecks, we are talking about that now the content size is gigabytes, or sometimes in the future will be even terabytes. And even with very fast connections, it would take time to download and then enjoy the content. And as I say, today in Netflix, you press play and within less than a second, you already have the content that you need to watch. So we need to be ready on that level. The second one, technical bottleneck, is the content format. And this is where Mawari comes in a lot too. Because today, as I say, we see the world in 2D frames. And we see in these 2D frames some 3D world, right? But that
Mhm.
means that the content is made to be displayed on a 2D screen. So in
Mhm.
the end, the final output is 2D. But when we think about mixed reality, the output should actually be 3D so that you can actually embed it with your real world and really become part of your daily life. This is not really standardized, or is not happening, and that's one of the problems that Mawari addresses, and we've been addressing since 2018. And finally, we have that other chicken and the egg, is that people complain about the devices being very clunky, heavy, and that they run out of battery, or if they are lightweight enough, they don't have enough power to, for example, last more than an hour, or have like heavy graphics, or the graphics
Mhm.
that you would expect to have. So that is also chicken and the egg, and the only solution is actually, as we see into the future, is that in order to make the glasses as thin as the Ray-Bans that Meta has been releasing, but
Mhm.
really have the quality of the Apple Vision Pro, is some of that processing burden needs to be offloaded to another device, whether it's at the edge or on the cloud, and that's
Mhm.
where streaming comes into place. So really quickly, if I still have time, just let's rewind to 2018 and why we did it. So I'll say a very short story. We had a Aiko, which is a digital human. It was an avatar that was, or that she still is, powered by AI. So you could have a conversation in real time with her. But it was Unreal Engine application, and it was only displayed in 2D monitors. Our partner KDDI asked us for the challenge of basically, okay, can you stream this to AR glasses? We just had a contract with XReal, and we want to see this digital human
Mhm.
alive. So we took on the challenge. Sorry, this is, yeah, this is a digital human with a complex backend. Is not something that AR glasses can render. And we had to look into it. Okay, so what are the current solutions whether we can really stream these or not into AR glasses? So we had pixel streaming that is more kind of like a remote desktop type of a technology.
Mhm.
And the issues at the time in 2018 is that basically it needed a web browser, it has low scalability, and is designed for 2D screens in the end. And this creates also a big dependency on latency and bandwidth because it's based on how SteamVR and other technologies work. So that was discarded. Then there was a new kind of trend called stereoscopic streaming, but also had similar issues in terms of dependency on bandwidth and latency. So the challenge that Mawari took on to is we had to solve this latency and bandwidth problem. And by this, we needed to create a new format to stream content that would be AR native. And that's the most important, that we took that design in mind. Okay, we really need to create something that is native to AR and not give any discount per se. So we reimagine, this is very technical disclaimer, but we reimagine how to capture, render, encode, stream, and decode 3D via a network versus a device. And that's what it means to really do 3D streaming. Now, is as you can see here in the video, we were able to basically have this person talk to Aiko in real time through the AR glasses. So this
Sorry, can we
technology,
pause here? I love everything you shared. I'm just curious, what are these other companies doing right now before Mawari? Because like there are a lot of companies like Niantic and others doing AR, and then there are other ones that they like. Even I heard Zock's recent interview, and he calls it holographic type of content with the glasses. Just curious, what are they using right now, and what is the problem with what they have?
okay, so most of the industry before and right now, I'm not gonna mention names, just by the way, to stay neutral.
Yes.
They still use pixel streaming, and
Mhm.
that's the um, as far as it has gotten. We went into a different way, challenging to stream and render real time 3D. The other closer cousin of what we do is what the holograms that you mentioned is called volumetric video.
Mhm.
Volumetric video is, yeah, 3D representation of someone moving as a mesh with texture, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end, it's pre-recorded. I don't think there's the technology just yet to really stream this at live capture at the quality that we would need for mainstream. But the issue with volumetric video, as we see it also in terms of the philosophy of Mawari, is that it it's it it comes from a recorded source in the end, and this could be a little bit of a AR native, but our goal was that today the way you build a 3D experience for AR and VR is in Unity or in Unreal Engine, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So we need something that is also native to those two engines so that you can stream it directly from the engine, anything that is real-time 3D, so that you can have interactivity, physics, all the bells and whistles, and not bring an external format that is not entirely, well, it is compatible, but not entirely designed for the purpose of a real-time 3. So
That's awesome.
so now Niantic and other companies. Okay, so as we mentioned, the XR industry is a very early stage industry, and there are many technical bottlenecks to tackle. So Niantic is focusing on real-time meshing, BPS,
Mm-hmm.
and other things that they're doing great. So that actually we're very good friends with Niantic, and we I cannot announce, but we have some surprises in the future. But bottom line is that our technology is in the horizontal stack of XR technologies. We play well uh, with technologies like Niantic BPS or real-time meshing. So that's something also very interesting to mention with pixel streaming, since you are rendering the pixel and sending the entire scene. It's not entirely compatible with what something that Niantic would do of real-time meshing on the device, but our technology is compatible.
And from the user perspective, how would the experience be different?
From the user experience, that's a very good question because we are a company that that enables something. So if I can be bold, I would say so. You go from an experience that is super high quality, interactive, and scalable to some adaptations of content that always has a trade-off. So for example, when you think about the scale today, you see Minecraft, Roblox, they sacrifice graphics in exchange of
Mm-hmm.
scalability, or if you have very high quality experiences, the scale is very small. So we're trying to bring the best of both worlds, just as MP3 did, that the quality is good enough for the average human ear to not notice the difference in quality and compression. So for us, it's the same, is to bring this AAA quality that we have in game engines to mix reality and augmented reality and make it a seamless experience. So the best way to describe it maybe is that the user actually doesn't notice anything, and that is a seamless experience, and they focus on the experience versus saying, oh, this technology is missing something, because that's also a big issue
Yeah.
with XR. When you join an experience, sometimes you focus on the device or on other things, but if the content is perfect and engaging enough, you forget about those things. And
Mm-hmm.
that's our mission. And that would be, I would say, the Mawari difference.
Amazing. So you have such a seamless experience that you don't even notice the tech, and that's the ultimate technology. And we saw that with Web3 kind of preventing from the mass adoption. So now people are going after putting Web3 in the back end and enhancing the user experience. So similarly, you all are providing the infrastructure so we can have more seamless UX for XR. Awesome.
Yes, correct. So I'm gonna play. Yeah, so just ending the story. Once we finish the technology and the 3D streaming or spatial streaming, as we call it now, basically we it led to our first consumer grade activation. And here we actually collaborated with a company called Inmersal. Inmersal it has a similar technology to Niantic. So it's to position content in the real world through maps. So here it was a super interesting challenge because as you see that sculpture is hanging from the ceiling, and then you have a lot of glasses, reflections, etc., etc. And we collaborated with a very renowned artist called Kohei Nawa. He's kind of like a up and coming trendy artist in Japan. So as you can see here, we scanned, instead of QR code, we did the deer. Then the smartphone positions where you are in the shopping mall. And then you start seeing this dance of points going around the um, the deer and this sculpture that is floating over the shopping mall. It's like an unreal experience per se. More importantly, because it's a 3D positioning, if you don't use visual positioning systems and our technology to really embed the content in 3D, create the right occlusion, et cetera, then all you would see is the point cloud in front of the deer, and then it doesn't look like a very nice experience. So this was a very successful activation and demonstration of a streaming 5G. Originally, it was 1 year in the shopping mall in Ginza 6, which is one of the biggest and most prestigious shopping malls in Tokyo. And we extended it actually to 18 months because it got great acclaim and people were testing it, trying it, and inviting friends. Technical details about this, you understand what we can do. This is about 250,000 points that the artist animated frame by frame on a 3-minute performance. And these points actually are geometries. Each one has a geometry with textures, real-time reflections, etc., etc. So even non-powerful PCs were not able to play this file per se, and we were able to stream it, and that was the beginning of what we am about to present, which is the Mawari platform. The Mawari
Sorry,
platform
can we
is
pause here? I just want to
yes.
admire that how amazing that was. And you just brought a good point when you were explaining the example, that the points and all the experience and movement were three-dimensional, and that got me thinking of AR experiences that we typically see that we can see with our phone. We often see the objects like overlaying, and these are all 2D, like you say, even though we are kind of seeing them in a 3D, but they're not giving us as much depth. And when we want the depth, we have to walk through them or move it and stuff. But this is like you're fixed in your position, but you see everything else moving in a three-dimensional experience. So now I understand how the user experience is so much more immersive when using your technology. And I hope our community and audience agrees as well. And if you guys have any question, feel free to put in the chat. We already have a couple of questions that we'll get to, but amazing example. Thank you for sharing that, Liz.
No problem. Okay, so let's go really quickly with now we call it spatial streaming. We were debating how to call it 3D streaming, et cetera, but it's an AR native format, so we ended up with the name of spatial streaming. So here's a quick example of how this really works. So you see this DJ playing on top of this pool. So the content, as I mentioned, instead of being a stream as a 2D overlay, is actually embedded into the virtual 3D scene that the AR device is creating. So what it allows is two things. It allows for developers to offload all the heavy content to the cloud, but still have UI and other lightweight content that is necessary for the experience to run at the speed that is expected on device. So we call that split rendering, which I will explain in the next few slides. So yeah, what we deliver is through this streaming and really unlocking the next generation of content. Um, so as I mentioned, we've been actually called by Forbes the $20 billion codec, or by AR Insider the MP3 for AR, and we have these two pillars: the codec, or the streaming technology, and then the SDK that wraps around the technology that we give to developers, which has a framework of spatial streaming, which is embedding objects into the 3D scene, and also doing the split rendering so that we can have this uh, T-Mobile's CTO, John So mentioned it, is non-perceived latency, because it's parallel processing between the cloud and the device. So when you're moving around, there's not really that perceived latency that otherwise you would see with pixel streaming, specifically for AR. So here's a really quick example of the object streaming. So as you can see here, there's this digital human, And because it's streamed as an object, you can resize it, rotate it, do all the operations as if it was a real object into a 3D scene in your AR scene. And because of this, you can create real world occlusion because it's embedded in the real world. So as you can see, this meta-human, her name is Maya. You cannot render a metahuman on your smartphone, right? But through our technology, you can stream a metahuman into your real world, occlude it with real furniture, etc., etc.
Wow.
Then the next one, interestingly to the question about interoperability, you could see like this in the end, because we provide a plugin for Unity and for Unreal Engine. So anything that runs on the engines, we can stream it. And for example, this feature of dynamic stream support is that while the application at runtime is still running, we can switch between content and servers and not having to preload the content. So that allows for a lot of interoperability. The other point is, I just mentioned, these are meta-humans. So we're actually streaming from Unreal Engine to Unity. You have never heard about that before, but we can actually do it.
Wow.
And that's also the previous example that I showed. This is actually was recorded with the Vision Pro. So we can stream Unreal Engine to the Vision Pro.
Wow.
And the last one is the split rendering. So as you can see here, and it's a very simple example where the trees and these low poly characters are actually being rendered locally by the device. And then the digital human is rendered on the cloud, and seamlessly in real time, we can embed both virtual and real content in the AR scene, creating a very seamless experience.
Sorry,
And
can we pause here? Can we go back,
yes,
please? So you basically said we can have Unreal Engine elements, Unity elements, real world elements all together in one scene. Is that right?
yeah, that is correct.
Wow, that's I have not seen something this good. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, everything we see is just limited to one or the other, or a combination of, obviously, Unity has done, there's so many capabilities for AR and VR. So this is awesome. Yeah, this is unbelievable. Are there any similarities to this already being developed at all, or this is first in the market?
There are other XR streaming companies, but our approach is first in the market. I can
Amazing.
proudly say of that.
That's amazing.
And just recently at this AWE, we kind of came out finally out of stealth mode. We've been in stealth
Wow.
mode for almost 7 years now, so
Wow.
it's been a while. But yeah, now we're heading towards opening the SDK for developers. So if anybody listening is interested, yeah, please do sign up on our site, and we'll add you to the beta tester list.
They're already
I
so excited. I don't know if you read the comments.
Oh
They're
yes,
already
I
doing
saw
that.
that. Thank
That's
you.
amazing. Yes, very engaged community. Thank you all for being here. Cool. Let's continue. I'm just amazed by everything you're sharing.
So, okay, so yeah, sorry. So the device is supported today. So as I say, we are AR native, and while we support smartphones, we're focused on AR on XR devices. So our first device that we supported was XReal, and we still support the XReal platform. We support Oculus 3 in pass-through or in VR. We support Magic Leap 2, and we support Vision Pro. I think by the end of the summer, beginning of fall, our SDK will fully have integrated Vision Pro in the pipeline, and probably the open beta will be probably next year. We will keep you posted anyways when we will have the open betas. Okay, so then the next part of the story. So, okay, this is all good. We created technology that can stream 3D content, uses GPUs on the cloud, But then we face the next challenge. It's like, how do we really scale it? We had some precedents, like for example, Google Stadia not being to gain traction with their cloud streaming platform,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot of also technical bottlenecks on that end. And we really had two options again. That was back in 2020, is whether we just wait, but also in terms of, we're a startup, we managed to survive, but also stay forever in stealth mode is not it was not our end goal in the end. So we had a choice. Okay, so we fixed one of the problems. Now let's try to look into the second problem, which is scalability. And the choice was to wait for the hyperscalers to do it or do it ourselves. And then we built the Mawari network. And that's where the Web3 play comes here. Because as you know, XR needs low latency, high speed connections. So actually the location and the shortest round trip from the end user to the server uh, actually depends a lot on the location. So while what I can also proudly say is that Web3 for us is actually a necessity. It's not just a nice to have, or like, okay, let's do it because it's cool. Is
Yeah.
that actually the foundational philosophy behind Web3 aligns very well with what we want to do, which is distribute the content worldwide in fragmented servers versus a centralized architecture. And for that, we need the power of blockchain for the alignment of incentives, et cetera, et cetera. You know all this spiel of blockchain. So, okay, so the decentralized network, what we do is we orchestrate uh, um, the GPUs in real time with the bandwidth. So we have a partnerships with telcos like T-Mobile and KDDI. And for example, we tap into the network APIs for priority of bandwidth, latency, et cetera, et cetera. And all this happens in real time. But this and that's why we've been also called by the press as the Akamai of XR, because we orchestrate all this as a content delivery network, but it's a content power and storage delivery network. I would call it that way. And the second pillar is that throughout these years, we actually learned a lot on how to deploy it on cloud for XR. And we saw that there were also a lot of barriers for the XR developers, because before Mawari, here you have this focus on backends and DevOps. It takes maybe a AWS certified person to
Yes.
deploy a cloud rendering application on AWS or GCP, and really that was really prohibited to developers, because it's okay, we are indies, we don't have money to afford a backend developer, or if I try to learn it myself, I sacrifice time from actually focusing on the actual experience.
Right.
And then again, cloud rendering it sounded like a pipe dream, and in the end, so that's why there's not that much adoption before that. But throughout all these years, we learned how to do this, and that's the power of Mawari network, that we automated all that backend. So what developers just need to do is upload their Unity or Unreal Engine scene and give us a couple of parameters on where they want their application deployed, how many users, et cetera, et cetera. And then the Mawari network automatically deploys and replicates the content across the network servers, and gets the content ready to stream in real time for XR devices.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, from my experience, having used Pixel Streaming to stream Unreal Engine 3D content, for immersive experiences, I know that you had to have those, cloud infrastructure experience figured out, and there are now companies popping up and helping with that. But it's amazing that you guys solve both of the big problems at the same time to really make it accessible.
Well, it's been almost 8 years of my life and my co-founder's life. We
Yes.
started as a three-person company. Right now, we're 21.
Wow.
So we have a very, very, very strong team, all very hardcore in their own expertise. I'm really proud, actually, of the team that we have
Amazing.
assembled.
8 years overnight success.
Well, uh, we need to still catalyze XR industry. That's our next mission.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so bring together the community, help other companies into product
Hmm.
market fit, so that we can start seeing that monetization that everybody wants on XR, so that we can move towards the other side of the chasm, per se, as they say in the startup world.
But it's a great timing, with the Apple Vision Pro and just, slow adoption of XR, but it's happening. There's more excitement now than maybe it was 5, 6 years ago. So, great timing to be the infrastructure provider for the content creators to actually create better content. So, when the hardware is ready for mass adoption, the content is ready, everything else is ready.
Correct. So yeah, Apple has been a great catalyzer. We saw recent news also about Samsung announcing something. This is definitely very interesting for the mainstream market, because I travel a lot, and before Apple Vision Pro, everybody would actually think, um, okay, so this is a VR headset and I will have the Magic Leap or something else. And now actually the people at the security, they say, oh, you have a Vision Pro, that's cool. So how is it? And they start making small talk because they finally relate to it. And that, to me, even though some people criticize that Apple didn't sell as many, that's a big breakthrough, where that the general consumer is able to tell, okay, this is the Vision Pro. To me, that's a huge step towards that mainstream adoption.
Yeah, for us entrepreneurs and early adopters, any sign of adoption is a good thing. So
Right.
that's great. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, we had a question from Gabriel talking about, what strategies needed to bridge the gap between cutting edge XR and mainstream user adoption, which I think we kind of touched on it. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so bridge the gap between cutting edge XR technology and mainstream adoption. I do have some slides for that, but unfortunately they're not in this presentation. But I'll try to explain it. We make uh, an analog of what happened with video games and arcades. And here we see LBX, or location-based experiences, as a pivotal way to lead into that mainstream adoption, because people are still very unfamiliar with the XR devices, especially, as we mentioned, because they're clunky, they, et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera. There's a lot of hesitance to really move that forward. But with locations-based experiences, since they're social, you're potentially with your friends, family, and they're lighter in terms of a user experience UI. People actually enjoy the content. I mean, I if it was not for the pandemic, location-based VR, the VR arcades would have been very, very successful. I mean, Sandbox VR and others are picking up again, because people need a new form of entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and we see the same that step. Think about when there were video game arcades. I would also go to play video games in the arcades, and eventually I got so engaged, per se, that I asked my mom, can you buy me a Super NES console? And then that was kind of like crossing the chasm into that at home, more mainstream adoption, that then led to online plays, then we have esports, etc., etc. Um, yes. Okay. So that's also a very good question about how Mawari based in Japan. So yeah, based in Japan, that's a very important factor, I would say, because again, it's an early adopter market in a very different way as the US. US also is a very early adopter market, but Japan is very focused on consumer experiences, and that's really what forced Mawari to really work hard on getting consumer-ready streaming versus on early stage technologies. The Western world is more about practicality, make it work, like run fast and fail fast type of mentality. And so that's the point is when you do a commercial project in Japan, needs to be perfect,
Mhm.
and every single little thing is scrutinized, and that made us very resilient. That's what I would say. And then the other point is that right now Japan is cool, right? As just as Korea. So I've seen that overseas clients are open to listen and to see what's happening here and say, oh, wow, this is interesting. So we did an activation in December in Japan, and we had people from the US, telcos, and other players actually just visiting specifically to see our location-based experience to have some learnings. Then that led to a stronger relationship of some projects that we'll announce later this year.
Amazing. So being a touristic spot for the West is actually helpful as well. Nice.
It is. Since interest of time, let me just share because we agreed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk
Let's
on.
just wrap up with some any other examples if is left and kind of what's next.
Sure. I will first present this activation that I mentioned about Mutec JP. Here
Sure.
we partner with Mixer. Mixer is a real-time motion graphics tool for concerts and festivals. It was created by Eric Wagliardo, which is part of the innovation team at Coachella, and this tool has been used at Coachella, where you have seen the virtual production and other things. So their tool actually does really cool things, but in a 2D display.
Nice.
But we met, we had a really good chemistry, and we say, okay, so why don't we try to do the same in XR? And this is the result. So basically, through projection mapping, as you can see the three screens, is actually being synchronized in real time to what you see in the AR scene. And this is the evolution of that shopping mall experience that we had here. We collaborated with Hiroaki Umeda. We capture the dancers with depth. And then in real time, this point cloud is morphed into Mixer, which is an Unreal Engine 5 application, and then all this is synchronized with the music, synchronized with the projection screens, and it's a multiplayer experience. And all that happening from the cloud, split rendered as a location-based experience. It was really, really, really a breakthrough. Eric and his team and our team worked so hard. I will dare to say that actually, yeah, we pulled this project off in less than 5 weeks. Like it was
Wow.
just from okay, so let's make it happen, and 5 weeks of intense work working with the
Wow.
artists, concepts into making this happen, and and it just proved that in Japan at least, and I see also in other parts of the world, is hungry for new type of content. Team Lab is one of the good examples. We sold out this experience. It was $20 for 7 minutes, as the visuals say. And more importantly, we targeted first-time user experience because we wanted to prove the following hypothesis. If your first experience with XR is a wow experience or an
Mhm.
awe-inspiring experience, you will be satisfied. But if, for example, if it's just a Pokemon Go, and no offense to Pokemon Go, you may not engage. But
Right.
here we sold out in less than 2 days. People even brought kids of 3, 4 years old to really to start experiencing this. That to me, yeah, was also kind of like one sign. Okay, so we're really crossing the chasm here.
That's amazing. What type of glasses did you all use?
For this one, it was Magic Leap 2.
Nice. Very cool. Amazing.
And
In
then
5 weeks is unbelievable.
I
That's
can show one last use case,
yes, yes, let's do it.
more business oriented, which is sustainable fashion design. Here
Mm-hmm.
we collaborated with KDDI and FMB, which is a fashion company. The main objective was to bring, yeah, this digital human into real scale for them to actually preview how the clothing would look like in the real world. Because the fashion designers would say, well, in a 2D screen is not good enough. And something just as a background fact, the fashion industry is the second waste producer in the world. So they
Yeah,
have a very aggressive sustainability goals. And one of them is the digital transformation towards making digital production. But the current state of the art was not good enough for these designers. So with KDDI, we challenged this, and it's like, okay, let's build a real-time pipeline so that you can design as if you were actually doing it in the real world. It was successful. As you see, we were interviewed in Japanese TV, and they're moving into a platform soon.
that's amazing. Wow. Yes, our community definitely loves fashion, and we talk about fashion a lot. So thank you for sharing that. Can you briefly tell us what's next? And other than checking your website and signing up for the SDK, how else our audience can engage with you and support you?
Sure. Actually, let me share screen again because Miro did have this slide. So, okay, so here's the QR code. We have a special form where you can sign up for the beta programs. We have three branches per se. One is like, okay, I want to test SDK. The second one is, okay, I have an interesting project where your technology might be a fit. So, okay, so that's, we're also open for proposals. And
Mhm.
finally, if you want to become part of the Mawari network as a Web3 user, also we're now starting the wait list.
Amazing. And in terms of the Web3 side of it, is that related to any chain or anything specific? Like, what are the requirements?
Uh, Can't talk much about it. Yes, it's related to blockchain, so you will have to, of course, sign in with a wallet. That's as far as I can say. Just please
More
sign
details
up,
later.
and
Yes,
we'll give you the
I
details.
appreciate it. Awesome, awesome. Very cool stuff. Thank you so much. Yeah, we love how the intersection of XR with Web3 is even better. Thank you so much, Louis. Thank you to our amazing audience. If you guys have any other questions or comments, definitely connect with Louis and follow him and get more information on that. And yeah, we had a lot of good questions, but just for the sake of time, we can't really get into that. And yeah, everyone is, very excited about everything and flowers.
Thank you.
And
It's the first time I get flowers, so that's a new one. Thank you.
that's amazing. Any final comments before we close out, Louis?
Well, I would like to say that the XR industry is a very resilient and tough industry, and but we also need to work as a team if we really want to push it through to that next phase. And this is also why I think a Web3 is a good example, because we have a very engaged community, but sometimes we can see it siloed. So through Web3, we want to bring together this XR community and grow XR together. So that's all I have to say is, I mean, all of us have worked hard. We have seen the ups and downs of XR. It never goes as we planned, but the people that are still here is like, let's grow together. That's all I can say. That's the
Yes, as
invitation.
Ian said, we, me all day. Let's go. Thank you so much, Louis. Thank you for your time and your insights, and wishing the best for Mawari. This is just the beginning, and we can't wait to see what's next for you all. Thank you to our amazing community. We'll see you next week at noon EST for the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.